In the previous video, we saw that everything in your HTML document will be a node. And we saw that a node can be an element, it can be a text, it can be a comment, and so on. And when a node is an element, it will be an element object. It will inherit new properties and methods. Let's go to the MDN and let's look for the element object. Here you have a list of properties that you can use and a list of methods that you can use. Let's see some of these properties. Let's first start with the class name property. For this video, I have an HTML file. Here we have two lists. Each one has 4 items. The first one has this class name and the second one has this class name. Let's move to the JavaScript file and select the first list. So I will use the query selector. This returns an element. We can use the methods and properties of the element object on this result. For example, if you want to access the class name, here I can console log this variable, then add the property class name. And this returns the name of the class name. If we had multiple classes in HTML, it will return a string of these classes. Now let's use JavaScript to change the class name. When we click on a specific button, we will give to this list a different class. So here I will create a button, then let's give it an ID. And of course in my CSS file, I'm adding some rules to style this button. Now let's go to the JavaScript file and target this button. Then let's console log the result. Great, it is working. Now let's add an event listener to this button. So we target this button, we use the add event listener method, we listen for the click event, and here we add a callback. And now we will console log the class name of the list. And now when we click on this button, we will console log the class name of the list. Great. So here I can give it a different class name. For example, the class of highlight by simply assigning a value to this property. Let's go to the Elements tab and look for the list. We can see that it has now a class of highlight. Let's do it again. And now when we click on this button, the class name will change. There are also some useful properties like the children property. First, let's remove this code and let's console log the children property. So this returns a list of list items. And also we have some useful methods like get attribute, has attribute, and so on. Feel free to play with these methods and properties and keep practicing. At first, it looks really complicated, but with practice, it will become easy.